2 hands full, which is also going to be weird, so I may need to switch this because it's playing your hand. Well, welcome, and thank you, Hope, for having me. This is the 3rd or 4th event I've done with Hope, and it's always good. I see some familiar faces before. Who's been to or heard me speak? A few of you? Excellent. Excellent. So good. So not the majority, so because I can use like some of the same jokes again, which is good. At some point, I will probably have to get new ones. Let's see. My name is Adam Bianco. Fun fact, I was actually thinking really hard about this while everyone was going. I don't really have anything good. I'll share a few things throughout the presentation, but currently my girlfriend and I are rewatching all the Marvel movies. And we just got done with phase 1. There's 19 of them so far. So if you're familiar with that, it's quite a commitment. And we are just through Thor the Dark World. We're like 7 in. And we have about 12 more to go in the next month and a half before the next Avengers comes out. So we are working really hard. So that's my fun fact. I'll tell you more in a moment. So today we're talking about how do we make the most out of social in 2018. Sign up if you want these slides. We have some support. You can go to that link, adambianco.com/2018social. You can download that. You also keep updated on upcoming events like the Digital Innovators Summit. We'll probably be speaking at that as well. All right. That said, what we're going to talk about today is going to be how we got here, what's led up to at this point in 2018, all in a span of like 3 slides. So lots to cover that. And then we'll go over how to make the most at social in 2018. Before we get there, we kind of already did some intros, so I just want to take a moment, and if there's any trends or anything, any topics you wanted to talk about, you can put them up on the board. We may get to them throughout the presentation, hopefully, it means we're on the same page. If not, try to leave a little bit of time at the end, which that can help kind of phrase some Q&A at the end, and we can discuss a little bit about it. So is there any topic or trends or just questions we want to see if we can touch on today? Any pressing questions? Yes?
I guess the elephant in the room is like Facebook, right? Like is it investment, commercial investment in commercial Facebook?
Sure, and then all the security factors right now, issues?
Right, well, yeah, how that's going to impact the people that we want to reach.
Right. Facebook security, sure.
Also,
what else?
How do you promote posts? How do you target audiences on Facebook?
How do you target an audience? Okay. Anyone else? Any other trends for 2018 you want to cover? Yes.
It's just my opinion, I could be wrong, but I feel like social media, Facebook itself, it's just so bombarded with ads. I feel like a lot of the younger generation is not spending a lot of time on Facebook. What do you have to say about that?
So too many.
You scale through more than people you see ads, you know?
So is this going to start deterring people from actually using the platform?
Yeah.
If it's too active? Sure. So I'll just make notes myself here. Great. Yeah. Anyone else? Any other trends or anything you want to talk about? Great.
New one, was it like Vero or?
Vero?
Verbo, was it the last 2 seconds?
Oh, I don't know if I know that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's something lasted like 2 seconds and.
Is that even enough to do anything? 2 seconds?
Listen,
Virgo?
yeah.
It's like a day.
Not Verbo, but Virgo's the video thing. I think it's something with the V.
Yeah.
But I'm
All right.
going to find it in my
Look it up. Has anyone heard of this yet? Okay. There's always something new. Every time I give any presentation, I speak at General Assembly quite a bit, do 2 classes a month there. And which one of the most popular ones is how to master Instagram. So if you really want to do a deep dive on Instagram, I highly encourage you to come to that. But every time I give it, I always have to update the presentation because there's always something new, which is kind of frustrating, but also kind of fun about digital marketing and social media. So great, so we have a couple things on the board. We'll touch on a few. This is actually focused mainly on how to make the most out of it without doing paid. So this is really focused on how to make the most out of it organically, which we'll talk about more in a few moments. Before you get into that, just briefly about me. My name is Adam Bianco. I was most recently with Tide Spin. I'm going back into some consulting work and actually looking for full-time jobs as well. The bulk of my experience is in the hospitality industry. I've worked with some major brands like American Girl, Harley Davidson, the NFL teams, and a few others. I went from that, went over to do some consulting, and recently with Tidespin, which is the on-demand laundry and dry cleaning company. You should try it out. It's a great product, great app. You can find me at any one of the social media accounts here on the left, especially on LinkedIn. And then I have a couple side projects, which could be fun facts. The Ohio State football, I have the world's largest Ohio State football Twitter account at almost 300,000 followers. And I started a project, Sports Foodie, and in less than a year I got it over to 20,000 followers and turned that into a sports food website.
Okay, I'm gonna raise my hand with a question.
Yes.
How to grow, like you obviously know how to grow an audience, so I
Mhm.
hope we're gonna talk about how to organically grow your audience.
We will a little bit. Most of the few things we talk about will bring growth. We don't talk too much about straight growth hacking class, which, as a side note, I taught that last year's Social Media Strategy Summit, and you can find that video actually online.
And it was one of the our most viewed, thousands of views.
Yeah, it's over 5,000.
I think our most viewed, yeah, you know it's over 5,000.
I've looked.
Our most viewed video, yeah, over
Yeah.
5,000, wow.
So that gives you, I think, 30 strategies to growth hack your way to, it's some of the strategies I've used for both those. Ohio State football, that's been over a decade, and that's just grown organically. Didn't really have to work, at least growth hack my way to that. All right, my new side project, it's pretty much brand new. If you want to see I just got a new camera, very amateur. It's called Huskies and Highways. It's like my travel photography of sorts. So, more than welcome to check it out. That's my phone. That's the Husky. Just a reminder, if you want these slides, go to that link right there. All right, so that said, perfect, 6:45. So how did we get here? First, social media pretty much started in 2003, but really started taking off in 2004 when Facebook came around. Started by that guy. And for the most part, it isn't slowing down, even with Facebook stumbling a little bit over the past few days. I'm sure it's growing and doing quite well. If Facebook were a country, it would be the largest country in the world, with over 2 billion monthly active users. And how does that compare to everyone else? Well, Facebook's crushing everybody. They actually own Instagram, if you're familiar with that. So they have the 1 and number 2 platform, and then there's everybody else. People ask about Snapchat. Snapchat is still growing. Instagram has really started going away from Snapchat and all the other platforms for the most part. That and LinkedIn have some of the highest growth over the past few years. But the most important part about Facebook is that more than 1 billion active users are on it every single day. These are monthly numbers. Instagram sees 700 million monthly users. Facebook sees more than that in one day. So that's why people love to use it, advertisers love to use it. And that's because you're on it, your mom's on it, and she's on it as well. Grandma might be on it the most because she sits around and follows every single grandkid, checking out all the different updates that they have, and she loves every single one. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, he's doing quite well for himself. Facebook stock has taken a slight tumble recently, but for the most part, ever since it launched, it was around $18 when it first dipped. It's now, I think, 170. It's dipped just a little bit recently in the past few days, but it's doing quite well. You don't have to worry about Facebook. How's Twitter doing? Twitter started out strong. It's down over here. This is, I believe, the Mark Cuban bump. He came out in an article and said, hey, Twitter is actually going to be really good. I think it's going to do well. It jumped up like 5 points in stocks. Let's look at Snapchat. Snapchat started up, tumbled quite a bit, jumped back a little bit, and is now floating around the $15 mark. Why am I showing you this? It's because social media, it's no secret anymore for the most part, social media is a business. They're all trying to drive the bottom line. Every enhancement that they do is intended to drive the bottom line and to bring in revenue for the company. And there's actually a direct correlation when we talk about organic and paid. Your organic reach going down, Facebook stock going up. Now, if you aren't familiar with organic and paid, organic is the reach that your post gets without you putting any money behind it. It's the natural kind of engagement and reach your post gets. Paid is, of course, you're putting money behind it. Ads, boosted posts, etc. Why that happens is because the algorithm has changed over the past several years, including a big change recently, and this keeps continue to shrink the organic reach of your Facebook post. And with that going down, they're forcing brands and companies to start paying to reach their own audience. And for the most part, it's doing quite well. Now, this was the first algorithm change. This was 2009. This is when Facebook changed from showing the most recent post at the top, and they implemented an algorithm where they got to show you and determine what you see. And people were going to revolt. Kind of similar to what they're doing right now. They're revolting against Facebook. And what happened? They went on Facebook to complain about it. They continue to use the platform over and over. That's why I am not worried whatsoever that people that hashtag delete Facebook is actually doing anything. I've seen, I think, one person I know actually delete their Facebook account. And I guarantee within a year, their Facebook account is going to be active again. People have short memories. For the most part, like Uber did several things wrong 6 months ago. Everyone I knew, especially I think everyone at Tidespin, said they're never going to use Uber again. I think I'm the only person that hasn't used Uber again except for once, because it was a cheaper price. United, the same thing, right? You're not going to fly United Airlines. I've been flying United Airlines like 5 times since that happened because they're the cheapest flight. People are going to use it because that's where their friends are, that's where their family is, and they're going to use it. So the revolt is now, as we talk about kind of one of those topics, I guarantee they're going to be just fine. Facebook stock today as a shareholder, a little bit of just a couple of stocks, it's bounced back and was just fine just today. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, how do they do this? This is the algorithm. Anyone seen this before? This is called the edge rank. They take multiple factors into account, but the 3 main ones are these. It determines what you see in your newsfeed. First, your affinity. That's your relationship with the person that's posting. So if I like, or if I comment on my brother's stuff, my friends, etc., almost every single time I like it, I'm more likely to see their content. Same thing with the brand. If I like Starbucks' posts, every time they post, I'm more likely to see it again. That's why when you post on your Facebook account, and every time you post, you probably can get anywhere between 5 and 10 likes. And guarantee Deborah's going to like it. Because that Deborah, or whoever for your business, likes every single thing that you post on Facebook. Within like the first 5 minutes, Deborah's going to like that post. That's because she's a very high affinity in the edge rank. The second thing is weight. Comments, likes, etc. The engagement part of it. This is actually becoming one of the more prominent factors in here. We'll talk about more in a few moments. And then decay. That is just the natural decay of the post. You're more likely to see something that was posted a few hours ago than posted, say, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. You're never going to see that post generally from 2 weeks ago. Now, decay has changed. That's probably one of the biggest things that's changed over the past couple of years, is that posts live longer, especially on Instagram. You noticed on Instagram, at least I have, before they implemented the algorithm, a picture might get likes in 24 hours, mainly, especially in the first 6 hours. But now, I can get a like, or I see people's content that is 3 days old, 5 days old sometimes, and I continue to get likes from it. So they have changed the decay factor and keep tweaking this algorithm to see what you see today. So the question is, and so I have bigger topics, is organic social debt. And as a person who has done quite a bit of paid, and actually with Tidespin, we made the decision to only go with paid for the most part. Because we'll talk about more in a few moments, but the question is organic social debt? I have to say that, a few things we're going to talk about today, these 7 different topics to help you hopefully maximize your organic reach. So let's start with strategy and social. So the big question a lot of people ask, of course, is what's the ROI on social media? And being on social means, quoted by Jason Peterson, CMO and Chief Creative Officer of the Voss Worldwide Agency here in Chicago. Being on social means you're brand new relevant in 5 years. Now that's not 100% true. That's the only ROI he would give hirers, chief level officers. It's not 100% true, because of course now and recently, you can get analytics from every single one of those platforms. He was trying to stress that the way people are engaging with their brand is living on social, and will continue to move more and more towards social, and that's true. But that's not the only way to gauge ROI. So how does it fit in your strategy? Well, first, make sure you always know, of course, that social media is just a small element of your marketing strategy, and it's all interconnected with each other. More importantly, that social media can play at different parts of the marketing funnel. Most of you have probably seen or are familiar with just a standard marketing funnel. Well, social media, whether it's paid or organic, fits in different parts of it. Whether it's using Instagram, leveraging that to build awareness for your brand and for your platform, Instagram's great for that. Certain posts are great for that. We can also, of course, use paid social here. As you move down the line, that's where remarketing comes in. Those ads that you see once you go shopping on a particular site, look at cruise. 5 minutes later, that cruise is staring at you on Facebook. That's through remarketing ads. Then you move all the way down the line to retention. And what people sometimes confuse is the fact that most of what you post online on social media is more targeted for retention than anything. It's because those are the fans and those are the customers you already have. If you're looking at organic social to bring awareness, it will do a little bit of that. And you can do certain tactics to build awareness, but for the most part, when you post something on social, oftentimes it is engaging the customers you already have. Now, as I mentioned before, with Tidespin, we didn't do a lot of organic posting. And why that was, because at some point in your strategy that you have, is you have to make a determination of what's the ROI from that. Social media can very much be a full-time job. In large brands like McDonald's, it can be about 20 people's full-time job. But if you have a small marketing team, 1, 2, 3 people, potentially just one person, you may determine there is a higher ROI of doing paid social. There's a higher ROI of doing content marketing, marketing automation, email marketing. At some point, you run out of hours in the day, hours in the week, and you don't get to organic. You don't get to social in certain points. So you have to make that determination. At Tidespin, we did just that. We said there's a lower ROI in doing social media, organic posts, because it's pretty time consuming. So we made a determination, we're not going to do that. We're going to do other tactics to bring better ROI. So the first question is it right for you? Then the second thing is going to be what networks does it make sense for you to be on? Of course, Facebook, 2 billion people are there, so should you. Twitter, that's the best way to engage with your customers and find new people. People are talking about what you're selling. People are talking about your topic. It's a great way to find people to engage in those conversations. We'll talk about more later. And the biggest difference between B2C and B2B is Instagram versus LinkedIn. B2C, Instagram probably makes a little more sense. Especially the sexier the product is, the sexier the company is, that plays well on Instagram. Those travel companies, the Instagram bloggers, the fashion. That's great to look at, the food. That's why it plays well on Instagram. A software company, not in those nice charts and things, not the sexiest thing to look at. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle on Instagram to build that strategy out. LinkedIn makes much more sense to build that thought leadership. But that doesn't mean you can't use Instagram if you're a B2B company. Sometimes it just means you want to do a different strategy, you want to promote something else, like a company culture, or something along those lines. That's where you can leverage Instagram for that. So of course, figure out, 1, do we have the resources and the ROI to do that, and where we're going to put it in the funnel, then 2, where are you going to plug, when that works. Now we can talk about strategy for a long time, this entire workshop, and then several hours after, but I want to get into the other changes. The next thing is Facebook changes. The Facebook algorithm, whether you know it or not, has changed quite a bit. And it all started with this. January 4th, 2018, Mark Zuckerberg. If you haven't known, he challenges himself every year to do something. He challenged himself to learn Mandarin one year. He challenged himself, I believe, to run a mile every single day for a year. I believe, or at least he challenged other people to do that. And this year, his challenge and focus is to change Facebook for the better. And if you may have started seeing ads for it. I've started seeing ads recently in the past week or two, especially when I'm watching Hulu, about different, Facebook I don't think has ever done ads. I could be wrong, but I don't remember them. Facebook's now doing ads, which is impressive. So they want you to know they're changing Facebook for the better. And this was all before the security breach. And what it was is he's saying there needs to be more interaction. There needs to be higher quality engagement on Facebook. So as we talked earlier, that edge rank, comments especially are becoming much more important. He wants you to connect with your neighbor, you to connect with your family member, versus a brand trying to connect with you. So what does that mean for brands? What does that mean for publishers? Well, this was in, I think, BuzzFeed or Adweek. I forget exactly which one. I just really like the graphic. Facebook's telling publishers, people like BuzzFeed, people like Adweek, people like the Huffington Post and ESPN, that they're going to see some major changes. 20% decrease in traffic driving from Facebook, which may or may not seem like a lot, but to people like BuzzFeed and any other publisher who relies on that traffic, that's a big substantial difference. And that's just in the first month. They're planning on making that number, well, increase or decrease depending on how you look at it. Because again, they want you to interact with your peers. So what does that mean for you? Well, the first time I gave this presentation was at Andy Crestodina. Does anyone know him? He does a great job. He spoke at his Wine and Web last month. And it was just right after President's Day, so I was putting these slides together. And this is my friend Matt. He's really goofy. He's kind of weird. And he's the type of person that really dresses up in a wig for President's Day. And, well, that post got some comments to it. And this is the holy grail at the end of the day. It's comments. And you actually start seeing one button that's missing is share. Share was the holy grail previously. We want you to share your...
Here, do you want me
I
to?
want you to... I can probably get it.
Just slip back on, it should click in. There you go.
There we go. I can figure that out. Share was the holy grail before. How do you share your brand and build brand awareness for it? It's not there anymore. At least they're starting to take it away little by little. Not every single post. If you go down your mobile feed, you'll start seeing share disappear in a few different posts. Again, the holy grail is now comments. Engage in the conversation. So what can you do about it? Again, humanizing your brand. That'll be kind of a theme I'm sure you've heard before. Humanizing your brand. Facebook's also testing these kind of to-do lists. You start seeing like recommendations, of course, on Facebook, to-do lists. We're actually going to just do a simple quote or a question that does that nice colorful background. More and more of that is coming. That's how Facebook wants people to have those conversations. Facebook loved photos. Facebook loves video. What's coming back is the simple stats. That kind of started going away a few years ago.
How do you set up one of those?
I don't believe this is rolled out to everyone just yet. This is coming. They're testing this right now. To-do list. So as you think about your brand, how do you start humanizing your brand to think about what's the company's to-do list for the day? What are they trying to get recommendations on? What are their struggles for the brand? How do you humanize your brand and try to gain comments to that? How do you engage with your customers that way? As I was researching this, I found a fun story. Before I get into some of the results from it, a person on BuzzFeed challenged the algorithm to try to see how long his story can stay at the top of people's news feeds. And he posted a story about this video of this girl in New York City who lived in Brooklyn, like a tiny studio apartment, that was giving her video tour of her apartment. It was like MTV Cribs for millennials meets like avocado toast. Okay? And what happened was this ridiculous video stayed on top of people's news feeds for 12 straight days. His friends and his family. This was him personally, not necessarily BuzzFeed trying to promote it. So these are the comments that were happening. This has been on my feed for a week. How the heck do I get this off my feed? It won't leave. Fast forward a few days later. I'm gonna murder this video. I see this post more than I see my own family. She's your family now. And it kept staying up there, and people didn't know this. He kind of tricked people because people kept commenting and commenting and commenting. And he hacked the new Facebook algorithm. Moving on. Stories, the new posts. All right, so we've seen that Snapchat really kind of ushered in the stories several years ago, a few years ago now. Instagram kind of ripped that off, and now for the most part it's doing it better. And then Facebook has also tried stories. But we've seen that Facebook hasn't actually, stories hasn't really taken off on Facebook. So I always find interesting how different networks or different audiences use different networks differently. Facebook's trying to take the story game, but it's not going well. Instagram's trying to do live broadcasting, but it's not going as well. The platforms are doing different things. But what is going well for Instagram is just that, stories. And if you want to see how well it's doing, is that, and especially compared to Snapchat, it's a Snapchat, and how many stories people are posting daily. 178 million, let's just take about the recode. In a very short period of time, Instagram surpassed it. And Snapchat, as we're discussing on our weekly calls for the Digital Innovator Summit, people don't know what to do with Snapchat. It's a very young demographic. It doesn't know how to make money at this point. The ads necessarily aren't working. They're trying to figure out how to work. And people are kind of abandoning, these brands are abandoning Snapchat more and more. Some are still trying to figure it out. Some are abandoning it. And one of the reasons is because Instagram has taken off. What was Snapchat's unique identifier and differentiator, Instagram still now, for the most part, is doing it better. So what are they doing with it? Again, for those who aren't as familiar with stories and how to use that for your brand. For the most part, it's the best way to get in front of your audience. People are interacting with stories more and more. And depending on your audience, especially if you're trying to attract a customer that's 20 years plus, Instagram is the best way to do that versus Snapchat. And now, while Instagram was ripping off Snapchat for the first year or so, now Snapchat's starting to rip off Instagram. Instagram's finally started making their own enhancements. You can post photos and videos in real time. It's more that behind the scenes. And you can also post content before. It was just in the last 24 hours. They've recently changed that in the past few months. You can post content from as far back as you want to go. And they also adjusted the size. Before it was just vertical. Now they've made it so horizontal photos and content look better on it. And you can go live with a friend on stories. And if you have over 10,000 followers in your business profile, what's one of the big things now is that you can add links. You can add that call to action. One of the big knocks on Instagram was the fact that it wasn't business friendly. You can only have one link and that was in your profile. You can't do any sort of call to action on your posts. Businesses struggled, and that's why it was mainly a brand awareness platform. Now Instagram, any enhancement that they're doing at this point is to try to bring more businesses to the platform. Links is one of the biggest things people have asked for. Scheduling is another, which, as you might have been aware, about a month ago, Instagram finally allowed you to schedule via Hootsuite, finally allowed you to schedule against any other social media management platform. But links are a big one. Now you can have that call to action only in your stories, though, at this point in time. So what else does this mean, with stories? Is that you can update it throughout the day. One of the main things I see on Instagram that people aren't doing well is the fact that they'll get 5 pictures, 3 pictures, and they'll post these all back to back to back. The better way to do it, if you aren't familiar with it, once you post something, your little head, your little icon goes to the top left-hand corner. As time passes, the more people post that they're following, your head and icon starts moving to the right. Instead of posting all those pieces of content back to back to back, post one, wait for your head to move to the right, or wait an hour or two, then post the next. Your head will jump back to left, jump back to left. Your goal is for your head to to be there every single time, just staring that follower right in the eyes as you're there. So again, space out your content. Wait a couple hours and post the next photo. You can also, it doesn't have to be necessarily real time. You can obviously make graphics to fit those dimensions. You can make graphics for Instagram. People sometimes think it is just behind the scenes. It's not necessarily true. You can combine a nicely laid out graphic along with some of the real-time features and textures on Instagram. You know, the swirls and the emojis and anything else you can add. Usually the best people that do it have a combination of the two. Then utilize stories in a unique way versus your feed. People often think that Instagram feed is those perfect pictures, stylized pictures. And that, for the most part, is still kind of true. Instagram stories can be more of the raw footage, that behind-the-scenes footage. It's an easier way to engage your influencers. You can use those in your Instagram takeovers. And for the most part, you can use it to build suspense, to highlight things on your website, to put links in there, social handles. A few other enhancements to stories is that you can save them in your archives that are pretty new at this point. And if you see something in your feed, you can now share. It doesn't matter if it's your content or someone else's content, you can share that to your story. And this is pretty new in the past few weeks. So you'll see here, they took it down, they said add post a story. This is now in, say, my story, and it has the original person who posted that content. Now we'll see how well it goes over, because obviously people are sometimes concerned that this is my top photograph. This is kind of my copyright. How do I take control over this and protect my photos? So we'll see if this stays, if there's going to be protections against this, what have you. But people, you can share any news feed, something in your feed, into your story. Other enhancements that are coming online just on Instagram is going to be cinemagraphs. If you're familiar with cinemagraphs, that is a video that is frozen in every spot except for one particular area, or sometimes two particular areas. This, for instance, is a cinematograph. This is going to become common in Instagram because they're going to make it very native to the platform. You see, as you swipe left to right, you have all different types of features and ways you can take a photo or a video. Cinematograph will be one of the next options. Something I've never really been able to master with the different apps. I haven't really tried too much. I think it's just been beyond me, but I'm really excited to try that out. So what else? Twitter has taken notice. If they haven't already, Twitter's slowly coming back. And one of the things is stories. And while they're not doing stories specifically, they are doing a little bit more. Things at the top of their feed. What's trending? What's new? The news story of the day was sitting more at the top of your feed. As well as, while you can do ads on Instagram stories, you can also do ads on Twitter Moments. This is a moment right here. Swipe left, swipe left again, move it back and forth, and you see an ad on this next page. So as you look at how people are engaging, again, mainly focused on organic, stories in the story trend is being translated over to the different platforms and changing it to their unique ways. Twitter is also getting into kind of that story real-time game. Now remember, no matter what you post, you're always competing with puppies and babies. Or worse, puppies and babies. I love this guy. I just love giant fur balls and dogs that go along with it. That's my dog again. I have no idea whose baby that is. All those are just ripped. I hope I don't get in trouble at some point. All right, so the next thing, I think this is number 7, e-commerce. E-commerce is much bigger. As we talk about ROI on social, obviously direct ROI is actually selling product via social. And lo and behold, that is now becoming quite common. First, it's going to be Facebook. Facebook has had an e-commerce shop for a while. You can connect it via Shopify, you can connect it a few different ways. And that is your shop right here. Now, sometimes that is hidden on a Facebook tab, and how often are people actually going to the page itself, which is very low, as well as then going to the tab and shop. So it's not as prevalent, especially without doing ads behind it. What is becoming more prevalent is Instagram e-commerce. You'll see here I can tap on the photo, start seeing, hey, we need that jacket for the price. Actually, probably can look on here and see how much it is. That jacket is $49. Great, buy it. If I click on it, it'll take me more to the shop description, and it can take me directly, if only for those shoes, directly to that page and purchase those.
How does that work though?
Don't you have it for it to be able to be a link?
Great question. So you have to have a business profile on Instagram. Then you have to connect it to your e-commerce platform.
Well, if you don't have 10,000 followers.
You don't have to have 10,000 followers to do the shop. You have to have 10,000 followers to do the link in your Instagram story. Two different things. You don't have to have, you can have one follower install the business profile.
Right.
So that's a great question. But you don't have, I believe there's not a limit, a minimum limit to do a shop.
But you have to do it to Shopify.
Shopify is the main platform right now. Great transition to the next slide though. You don't have to have Shopify. There's several different workarounds. Soldzy is one. Have to have it is another, or have to have it by Soldzy, excuse me. Like to Buy is actually one of the original platforms that started making this popular. And Instagram finally said, okay, we're going to stop letting these workarounds happen. We're not to stop, but we need to get on the boat. Like to Buy, as you might expect, you like something, it starts automating the Instagram brand reaching out to you. Boost works very, very similar. You comment on that post. Say if I set up my own Boost account as a follower, as a customer, I comment on it, and it immediately texts me a link to buy that particular product. So there's several different workarounds if you don't have Shopify, if you're not connected. So e-commerce is getting much, much bigger. If you're in the e-commerce game, especially if you're targeting people demographic, more so than potentially Instagram is going to be Pinterest. People are much more likely to purchase something on Pinterest. They're more actively looking for something. That's probably no surprise, because people are actively looking to redecorate their kitchen, actively looking to travel, or to look at nursery, or if you're my girlfriend, she's looking at engagement rings right now. And I know exactly what she wants, because apparently she puts on our Pinterest board. Welcome to the 21st century. But they're much more active, notice they do it on Instagram when you're in this little Pinterest chart, but they're much more likely to purchase something on Pinterest versus Facebook and some of the other platforms. So e-commerce is much, much bigger and can be the bigger trend in 2017. 2018. Instagram rolled out towards the end of last year, the e-commerce platform connected with Shopify. So if you haven't heard of it or haven't done it yet, don't worry, it's pretty darn new. You're not really behind the curve. But definitely this year, if you sell product online, make sure you are connecting your social media accounts to it. The third to last thing, video. I'm excited. I actually, in like 2 from now, I'm trying to remember the exact order. 2 from now, I put in a brand new one. I'm excited about it. I worked on it last night. I'm really excited about it. But video, you probably heard about video for the past several years. A lot of this is going to be not new. This just basically says, in a nutshell, do video. Videos are 12 times more likely to get shared. Fun facts about video. 90% of videos are viewed on mobile, so make sure you're optimizing for mobile. 28% of higher purchase intent. How do they measure that? Well, they'll probably do an A/B test. One, saying you've watched this video, then will retarget you. The other, without showing you the video and seeing do you have higher purchase intent. Now 80%, I saw a stat, I wish I had sourced this one. 80% of Square videos get more engagement. So Square videos are doing well. It's native to that mobile platform. They don't have to click into it to see the rest of it. So on Facebook or whatever it is, oftentimes you're not clicking on that video. Instagram, etc., to expand it if there is an expansion. But take this a little bit with a grain of salt, because vertical videos, and it's sometimes maybe painful for people that have been doing video shoots for a while, but vertical videos are in. And especially on the rise, especially on Instagram stories. This connects to the point to a couple slides ago. And people are leveraging the vertical space in it. See a couple examples there. A few more examples. It's going to be the split screen. Very creative ways. Obviously, you can see a little bit better on the one here on the right. They can leverage vertical video. 2 different ways. The left is also split screen. And here's another way of combining in these videos with some of the Instagram features they can put on. Little fun, creative ways to use vertical video. So vertical video is on the rise. So play with different dimensions of your video. Don't just stick to the square. Don't just stick with your regular, even horizontal video. Especially if you're doing stories. Now I read this actually just a couple of days ago, so I was updating this presentation. And Facebook is still pushing live video. So don't forget about that. If you want to get out organically, live video is still very, very powerful. You can read the whole quote. Bold says live videos on average get 6 times as many interactions as regular videos. So think about how you might be able to do something live. Now, if you haven't done anything live, it does save as a video that you can then use later. But obviously, live video, there's still a place for it. It hasn't taken off as much as Facebook would have liked. It started out strong, then it kind of came back to earth a little bit. It's still, for the most part, one of the biggest things Facebook is pushing. And live video is still a great way to interact and engage with your audience. And LinkedIn. Not to be outdone, LinkedIn is getting into the video game. More and more, and I've already seen it, more and more LinkedIn is going to push people to upload their videos natively to the platform. Meaning that you can, instead of sharing your YouTube link, instead of sharing what you may have posted on Facebook, they want you to upload the video to LinkedIn. More and more you're going to start seeing people in higher positions, thought leaders, etc., share blog, if you will, video blogging. They'll share short snippets on LinkedIn. Having that blogging piece, if you're annoyed with LinkedIn right now, you may be. There's a lot of content on LinkedIn these days. It's going to get even a little more hectic, especially when video starts making its inroads, and that will happen this year. Second last point, engagement. I talk about this in just about every one of my presentations. There are 2 different types of engagement. There's reactive and proactive. Reactive is something you're likely doing already. Hopefully you're doing. That's when someone comments on your tweet, someone comments on your Facebook post, says they ask you a question, and they say, that's a great post, of course you're responding back. What you may not be doing, where the growth is proactive engagement. As we talked on Twitter, why you should be on Twitter, that's because of proactive engagement. With Tidespin, if people were talking about dry cleaning or laundry or their washing machine broke in the radius in Chicago, we could reach out to them and have that conversation. Hey, you should use Tidespin. Here's some credits that you can take and use our service. For when I was consulting, worked with a dog walking company, and we used proactive engagement on Instagram. People love to post photos of their dogs, including myself, and their puppies especially. And we know if you're using certain hashtags like Dogs of Instagram, Dogs of Chicago, or you're taking out locations like Montrose Dog Beach, or any one of the dog parks, that's our customers. As a dog walking company, those are our customers right there. So we're going to seek out those posts and that content, engage with them, comment on their photo, follow them, so they're now aware of our brand. We're engaging in that conversation. That's where that growth is. Sports foodie was the same way. Why that grew so quickly is because at different, every night, I mean, there's from hockey to basketball right now, there are probably 30 games going on tonight. I can go virtually, I would say on Instagram, to those locations, to those stadiums, find every single post that's talking about beer, that's talking about food, that's highlighting it. I can comment on it, follow them, they see the brand, and they engage with it. I already know that is my customer right there. And that's that proactive engagement. Now, a few brands that are doing it very, very well, both reactive and proactive. Wendy's, I love Wendy's. Whenever we do proactive engagement, I look at Wendy's for about 5 minutes just to get motivated and get creative. Let's see, this is you may have seen this. This made waves like a year ago. Wendy's was talking with Thuggy D. Sorry to hear you think that, but you're wrong. We've only ever used fresh beef since we were founded in 1969. So you deliver it raw on a hot truck. Where do you store cold things that aren't frozen? It goes on. Y'all should give it up. McDonald's how you guys beat with that dope-ass breakfast. And of course, Wendy's responds, and this is why it went viral. You don't have to bring them up into this just because you forgot refrigerators existed for a second. So obviously fresh, never frozen beef. I love Wendy's coming from Columbus, Ohio. That's where they're from. I love Wendy's. It's a great response. Responses like this, Wendy's got sassy over the past year or two. And responses like this make the brand kind of come to life. And it's fantastic. A few other examples. It's not, again, that's interactive then. A few more reactive engagement. People send in,
That's
yeah.
a question, wait for a second.
Yeah.
How quickly did that turn on happen? Like, and when you were talking about the dog walking, like, are you guys online?
You
all the
can,
time, or
great
do you
question,
track?
great question. So this is where, it depends on your social media team. We talk about, as a small company, you may have one person. You may have a half a person because you only have them for a few hours. Or Wendy's and McDonald's, they have literally teams. They're just sitting there all the time. I've seen it in action. And the plus side of proactive engagement and just engagement in general is that there's content out there. That's also the downside. Because you have to figure out, if you're a small team, you have to figure out a small time to do it, or short windows. When I was growing sports foodie, I would do it for about 10 to 15 minute spurts, about 4 or 5 times a day. Right when I woke up, I was liking photos, following people, etc. I would do it on the train. I would do it for 10, 15 minutes. With Tidespin, we were doing it pretty consistently. We were doing it for about 20 minutes a day, about twice a day. And that was it. Because at some point, you just got to stop and you have a million other things to do. So it is finding that. Find a time, maybe it's one time during the day, maybe it's right after lunch, maybe right before lunch, you don't get angry, or don't get angry. Find a time to do it that makes sense, pick a window to do it, and then just proactively reach out to people. But if you are a large brand, like Wendy's, who really can interact with people all day long, they have, it's just fun. Do you want to go to McDonald's? Can't read that. Wendy's just short. No. This one says, my friends, I'm going to read from my computer, it's blurred. My friends don't like your food that much. What should I do? Sounds like you're hanging with the wrong crowd. So very fun. McDonald's, no slouch either. And this is them, McDonald's uses, whether they use Sprinkler, Sprout Social, Hootsuite, what have you, they can bring these keywords in their searches, and of course, you don't have to mention McDonald's, you just mention McDonald's for that matter. They respond back. McDonald's sweet tea is undefeated. Oh, that's great news, Tyler. We think you and sweet tea make a perfect team. A few others. Why the hell have I been craving a Big Mac so much lately? It's like the old saying, Luis, the stomach wants what the stomach wants. So again, they don't have to mention McDonald's for them to interact with you. And one of my favorite recently is moon pie. If you don't know moon pie, it's these probably very unhealthy snacks that you ate when you were a kid. You probably ate 20 of them, and you're going to go sugar coma, or you crash. And that's moon pie in a nutshell. And I love this tweet. This was on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock at night. If you're not enjoying this fine evening by polishing off a tasty moon pie at home, then you probably have a very active and healthy social life. So props on that. They're probably one of the best recently that started out into doing it. And this is their pinned tweet. So a pinned tweet can be very powerful. And they just make it a game. Right from the bat, you go to their profile, they're letting you know what kind of brand they are. So again, humanizing the brand, not making corporate speak, engaging with customers. You'll see these threads throughout, especially recently. How do you bring that to your company? And I love this too. Just they're asking for engagement if you follow along.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it, now I know this is Twitter, but on Facebook, is it true they're dinging you if you ask for likes?
Generally, yes. I mean, they've been doing that for a couple of years. One of the more popular things at this point was probably about 5 years ago were contests. Like this post, you get entered to win free subs for a year, or whatever that is. Or like this if you want this to win, comment if you want this to win. They started dinging those several years ago. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but Facebook's algorithm starts finding these out some way, somehow. People smarter than me have figured that out. And they start dinging you and start pressuring that post. So be wary of that. Now this is the new one. You may think, why is Google in social media class? We'll talk about in a minute. But Google strikes back. But in order to strike back, you got to fail, right? So let's talk about Google Plus for a moment. One of the favorites. of social media. So this is what it was trying to do. This was trying to promote back in 2011, 2012, when it initially came out. It said, hey, look at us. Facebook has 693 million users. We have 343 million. And who knows where they actually got that number from? So it's more like this. 2.2 billion profiles on Google. Less than 0.3% were active users by the time. It was 2013, 2015. The exact date. Which means this. The race is pretty much over. This is 2015. 1.5 billion people were active on Facebook. Google Plus had 6 million. Those probably aren't the scale, they're probably actually much smaller. Google Plus didn't do very high. So what is Google doing now about it? So first, Google My Business. If you don't look at this pretty in depth, you need to, 1, get your account, and 2, actually look at this pretty regularly, at least once a month, I would say. And first, because it has lots of great insights, including see how people are finding your listing, not just your website, but actually see you on the rankings. Whether that's direct typing in your business name or address in Google, or find you by product, category, etc. You can see the direct and discovery. Then from there, and a few of these are kind of brick and mortar focus, are people finding you on maps, or people finding you on search, etc. And what are your customers doing once they find you? Are they visiting your website? Are they calling you? Are they getting directions? And the directions is really powerful, again, especially if you're brick and mortar, because you can find this, your heat map. Where are people coming from? You can start taking this data that can influence your paid Google ads, your AdWords, your paid spend is going to affect quite a bit, direct mailers, etc. You can take this and use it in other parts of your strategy. And on top of that, you can gain valuable insights. You can searches, views, etc. And then you also see reviews. The reviews are becoming a much bigger part of Google. And Google is, you can't see it, TripAdvisor, I would think initially Yelp would be one of the bigger review sites. Obviously it is. But TripAdvisor, which is more touristy and such, if you want to see more ads or more reviews for tourist-heavy spots, whether that's the Bean, whether that's Skydeck, and a few other spots, those get a lot of reviews compared to like your local neighborhood restaurant, which are more focused on Yelp. But the one I want you to show you is look at Google, the green. You'll see it very small a couple years ago, getting bigger, and getting bigger. And in this next chart, you'll see the growth. The growth on Google reviews is just about exponential at this point. It's getting really, really big. And why this is important is because your localized organic ranking factors. So when someone searches for you in, say, in Chicago, reviews factor into 7% of your SEO. There's a lot of different things factored in, but reviews almost make up 10%. But especially, again, if you're brick and mortar, or if you're some sort of service, it's almost double when you start looking at these in what's called the 3-pack. You'll see this if you search for like restaurants in the West Loop, Chicago restaurants. I live in the West Loop, so I knew exactly where I was coming from. It starts ranking, even though you can't see it, in order is the highest rated restaurants, as well as the most reviewed restaurants. You start looking at that list and you realize the pecking order is just that. Now really based on highest ranking and most reviewed. And that takes up nearly 13% of the SEO. It's factored into that. So again, didn't really answer the question, why are we talking about Google in a social class? It's because this. On Google Plus Failed, Google is more blending the lines of search and social. There's Google posts that are factored into here. Whether it's a special, you see it in, I know you can't see it too well, in mobile views. See specials, it can view in the post itself, right under your Google ranking. Now how else does it look? Okay, someone's searching for you, your post, which can be a short period of time, it can just be a regular social post, you can actually have time limits if it's a particular promotion. All that will come up right in your listing. You see that here. someone clicks on it. Then right down below, posts are becoming very, very powerful as part of your own Google listing. What message are you trying to get across? Again, is it a particular promotion or anything else? And why Google's doing this is because, well, it's trying to kind of fight back Facebook a little bit and blend both worlds, because Facebook's doing that as well. 3.5 billion searches every day on Google. Facebook is 2 billion. Facebook's slowly eating away at Google. Now, a lot of those searches are for different reasons. You're searching people, you're searching other people in general for the most part. But Facebook is also doing a lot. Again, as we talked about before, recommendations, events like this one, marketplace, professional services, more and more searches are happening on Facebook. So Google is trying to eat away now at the social side of Facebook and starting to combine the two. And again, a few examples of how this works. Sia, or any other musician, could update her Facebook page, but if people are searching for concerts or anything else, she can post something on her listing, on her page, on Google, in Google My Business, and that'll show up right in her listing. Another example of this, and we don't have celebrities in here except for Bachelor. But all those crazy questions that Ari from The Bachelor might get, or any other celebrity for that matter, those random things like how old somebody is, or what movie was their worst movie, or whatever it might be, they can now answer these questions, those searchable questions. Now this is rolled out to celebrities, but who's to say that won't be coming in soon to Google My Business as well? Those questions, the basic ones that people are asking about your business, Google's bringing in. And you know what? That video will stay and live on Google versus you post it once on Facebook and then it'll be gone in 6 hours and people will never see it again. Google is, again, blending those lines and blurring those lines between search and social. So as we wrap up, just a few minutes after 7:30, what does this mean for you? In terms of your strategy, you don't have to be everywhere. You don't necessarily even have to do organic versus even paid. But figure out what makes sense for your business and what drives the highest ROI back to your business. And oftentimes that will take some testing to figure it out. Throughout the presentation, you saw examples of brands humanizing. How do they interact with people? As engagement is the number one factor, how do they interact with people on a human-to-human level? Video is huge. Simple as that. Make sure you're incorporating video as some part of your strategy at this point. And it's always changing. Whether it's Instagram stories, whether it's Google My Business, there are new initiatives you can take advantage of just about every day, every month, every quarter. So how do you incorporate those into your strategy? One place I do go, I like to highlight this and sometimes don't always write it down. Probably the best spot to stay on top of social media is going to be socialmediatoday.com. Again, you'll be very educated, but it'll also be very frustrated at how much it's changing because you're just catching up with what happened like 6 months ago, and then it's changed again. So I know that's always the challenge doing social media and digital marketing overall. That said, just remember, have fun with it. You see brands like Moon Pie, you see brands like DiGiorno. Have fun with your brand, with social media overall. If you want these slides, go to Bianco.